Noah Pohl from Study in America, and I'm here today with
May Jennifer Shores.
And we're here to talk about the UCLA MBA program, the Anderson School of Management. So let's talk a little bit about you. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, Noah, I am the Assistant Dean of MBA Admissions and Financial Aid. I have been here 2 years. Prior to UCLA, I worked at the Wharton School in Philadelphia. I worked both in admissions and academic affairs, and prior to that, I taught at a business school in Moscow, the International University of Moscow.
Oh, very interesting. So I did some research into the program here, and there are multiple tracks. There's a finance track, there's a real estate track, there's an entertainment track, and then there's an international business track, I guess. So are there, and you have a center for each of those focuses, is that right?
We do. We don't have a concentration or an area of specialty like most schools do, but we do have a lot of centers that focus on areas that are of interest to people. And one of the things that is unique about our centers is they're not just you're a professor, Noah, and you get a research grant and we now say we have a center in your name, but they're actually actively engaged in the community, in business. The students work on the centers. They work on a lot of projects both within Los Angeles, maybe outside of the U.S., including in Chile, Canada, Asia.
You have multiple MBA programs, and I wanted to ask which one is the most popular among Turkish students?
Yeah. Well, we have three. We have the executive MBA program, the fully employed MBA program, and the traditional 2-year full-time program. Mm-hmm. I think the most popular depends a lot on where you're living and your proximity to the school. For people who want to go full-time, that would be probably the bulk of people from Turkey. Mm-hmm. Now, for those who would be living and working in Los Angeles, California, anywhere in the West Coast or within commuting area mm-hmm. of the school, then it would be the executive or the fully employed.
What do you look for in applicants, or particularly international applicants?
Yeah.
Since we're here talking about Turkish applicants and Middle Eastern applicants.
Yeah, that's a really great question, and it's interesting because international students frequently expect that we'll be looking for different things than we will in U.S. citizens. Mm-hmm. Just like an engineer will think that we're looking for different things than a consultant, and the fact is we're looking for the same thing in all the applicants. Certainly with a non-native English speaker, we hope that they speak sufficiently well to understand a classroom lecture in English and converse on a team. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, we look for academic preparation and ability to handle a very analytical curriculum. Mm-hmm. Because we're on a quarter basis, the curriculum comes pretty quickly, and analytical skills, background in things like calculus or statistics are really important. We look at professional development, mm-hmm. not only at what you have done professionally in terms of leadership and management in a very broad sense, but your potential going forward. And then we look at your ability to contribute to any community in which you participate, whether it be work, school, family. We very much believe in a very collaborative learning environment, and so we like people who play well in the sandbox.
So in the application process, you now allow students to use an audio-video clip. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, could you talk a little bit about that and
yeah.
if people are nervous to do that now, if it's a new thing?
Well, yeah, last year for the first time we allowed one of the essays to be submitted in old handwriting fashion or through an audio clip. This year it was through an audio clip or a video clip or, again, in handwriting. Sometimes people get nervous about it. They worry about their English, they worry about their technological savvy or proficiency. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, last year when it was voluntary, 71% of the people did it. Mm. It was fairly gender neutral, ethnicity neutral, and internationals didn't do it that less often than U.S. citizens. And the best advice we can give people is it's always content before form.
In many universities in Turkey follow like a uniquely difficult grading system where it's not necessarily on a curve.
Yes.
So there are times where the highest GPA is a 3.0.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, do you take that into consideration when you're looking at people from Turkey? Or do you put more weight on their emphasis on their work experience?
We absolutely take into account the difficulty of a curriculum. We look at the educational institutions within a given country. We actually have in our graduate division this whole big binder of universities around the world. And so we look at what is good performance within a given system. So we wouldn't be calibrating a 3.0 in a Turkish system to a 3.0 at a university in the U.S. So absolutely we take that into account.
And Mr. Turkman also mentioned that UCLA has been to Turkey recently. Is that something that you see happening again, or?
I do. I think our experience in going to Turkey last year was that we encountered some really terrific prospective MBA students. We've had a nice steady stream over the years of people coming from Turkey, and we'd certainly love to build it out. Turkey is a wonderful country culturally, historically, with all of its ties to the Ottoman Empire. And when you look at what's going on around the world globally in business, its position sort of at the crossroads of Eastern Europe, Western Europe, and the Middle East makes it a really prime location for getting students with a wide diversity of cross-cultural experience.
Do you recommend that people have professional experience before coming to business school?
The average number of years work experience coming into our program is about 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
We do accept people directly out of undergrad or with fewer than 3 years of work experience, but in those cases they have to have done their due diligence to really know what an MBA is. And so what they don't bring to the classroom or community in terms of their experience and exposure professionally, they will then have to offset with some other qualities. Maybe had some terrific internships as an undergrad, or they're terrific leaders in their undergraduate institutions, or their recommenders say, this is a rising star, and we know that the timing for this person is correct. So a lot of it is not just the years of work experience or the age, but it's the preparation and the introspection and having done the insight to really know that now's the right time for you to get an MBA.
So let's step back a second. What's a
Okay.
typical day like for a UCLA student here in the management program?
I would say there probably is no typical day,
Okay.
other than you're very, very busy. So we have classes Monday through Thursday. So on a Monday through Thursday, you would have 2-3 classes during the day.
Mhm.
You would be having group meetings to work on different projects. You might be going to the Price Center to work on an entrepreneurship project or to work on a small business plan. You might be working on one of our capstone projects, which is called the Applied Management Research Project, AMR, and working with a local company or a company in Colombia or Chile or anywhere in the world to help them maybe go from being an early stage firm to a higher stage firm, or look at some of their logistical processes and improve how they operate.
There are a lot of multinational firms that have entered Turkey within the last year, and young professionals in Turkey are placing more emphasis on global issues. So I wanted to know, what types of advantages does Anderson offer to its students in terms of gaining a global, international edge when they ultimately return to the business world?
Okay. I think that's a really good question as the world becomes more of a global community and is more global. In any given year, about 53 different countries are represented within our program, and that's just the people that we admit. Then we also have an influx of people from other top MBA programs around the world who come on exchange here. And the participation in exchange programs here is much higher than most MBA programs because we're on a quarter basis. It's easier to go on exchange. We have exchange programs with more than 50 countries. So if a third of the class, for example, which is not uncommon in a given year, goes on exchange, we have, which is maybe 120 students, we have that equivalent coming back here and engaging in our classroom. We have faculty who come from every single region of the world, and it's not just one faculty from one region, one from another, but it's fairly broadly distributed among all of them. So the community is naturally global in terms of the classroom discussion, the engagement, and even the activities we have. We're unique in that many projects that happen here are not just US-centric, North America-centric, but they are actually working live with companies, with ministries of finance, for example, in Brazil or in Chile, and that's a wonderful opportunity.
That sounds great. That's interesting. So entrance to top programs like this are gotten more difficult over the years, as we talked before about how competitive it is.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, do you expect that trend to continue? And if so, do you think it has anything to do with the current recession, or?
You know, there's so much written in the press about trends and competitiveness, and I think the issues get a little muddied. I think it has become more competitive, but for me, when I think of competitive, I think of quality and not numbers. Anytime there's a decline in the economy, there can be an increase in applications and volumes to business schools, but there's often a lag time. So for me, it's really the quality, and I think it will probably continue to increase, and I think that's because the MBA has evolved over time. You know, MBAs historically it was during the age of the Industrial Revolution, and it was all about finance and accounting. And then it broadened, and it became things like marketing and human resources and organizational behavior, but still within mainline standard industries. Now you see the MBA recognized as a wide degree, variable across academic areas, and so as people become more and more aware of the value of an MBA, and they know that they no longer have one like their grandparents or great-grandparents, depending on your generation, had, it gives them the flexibility that you may not get in some other professional programs.
Do you have any specific advice for applicants from the Middle East or from Turkey that we could sort of close on, and just something that you could leave them with?
Yeah, I would say that coming from your region, you bring an incredibly wonderful perspective to the program, and one that I think is highly welcomed in the U.S. and particularly at our school. We can fill the class with a lot of the same countries year in and year out, and I think given some of the shifting politically and economically around the world, that your voice is one we really want to hear. And you will enrich our learning environment by bringing a real unique perspective.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate all the advice you've given, and it was very nice to meet you.
You're welcome.
Dean Shores.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.